Right. In this class, we are treating modern programming, and it's it has a prerequisite, which I believe you must have known. You should be familiar with what Python program is all about and what function is all about. So the, so we are simply advancing. Remember the course title is modern programming. That means what are the simply treating the concept of programming that aids programs in the contemporary society. So that means we are talking of libraries. What is a library? Library, it's simple. Simple is a series of usable functions that can be used by a programmer to perform common tasks. So we have a lot of tasks in the real world. For example, in statistics, we will talk of we cannot talk of statistics without talking of, let me say, average, standard deviation, and so on and so forth. So it simply makes sense that, or it simply makes sense that there could be a pre-written program whereby if you are solving a particular problem and you encounter a concept that you need to use the concept of average, for instance, in statistics, you don't really need to start writing the program all over. You simply import the function, import the library or the statistic modules, and then call your average as a function to perform a particular task. So that's simply the summary of what you are doing today. So we are going to look into, first of all, how do we import those libraries? How do we make use of it? And how do we create our own? So once we get these two things, we are done with it. Let's so quickly we are going to check on let's quickly check on the available libraries we already know. So the first common library we are going to treat is a library called random. So random is a library, it's a modulus. So inside that modulus, you have series of functions. So, but the one thing that each library, remember, is a written function. So if you violate any rule of it, you will not get your result or it will flag error. So each of them has its own syntax. So the first one we are going to look is function. The module is called random. So for us to make use of this random now, we first of all import it using the keyword import. So quickly let's refresh our memory on what a function is all about. So let me have this code, for instance. If you have this code now, so let's create a simple function. We use the keyword div. Let's say the name of our function is hello. Then we use parameters. All these things we should be familiar with it. Let's say print hello. So hello CSC 303. Now, whenever I call this function hello, whenever I call the function hello, if I run this code, for instance, now, nothing will happen. You can see that nothing happens at this point. So this is where we expect the output. This is where we expect the output. Nothing happens at the output level. So now, nothing happens at the output level. So if we end up writing another program, if we end up calling this function, how do we call a function? By simply saying hello, call the name of the function and put a bracket. If we call this function now and run it, find out that hello, sorry, don't mind my spelling. Hello, let's call it again. hello. This is now display hello CS303. So that means this has displayed. This code inside this has displayed. So what is the importance of this library? That means whenever we import a library, there are millions of code on top. Just assume that there are millions of functions on top. That your duty is just to call any of them and to perform a task. Of course, you should know the syntax on the rule of a particular function you want to call. So let's use the word. Let's import the keyword. Let's import the module called random. So before then, let's try using a function called random. A function inside the random, and you find out that we have an issue because if computer does not know those functions, they are not default, they are not default uh, keyword, they are not default statement in the program. So we have to import it before we make use of it. So for instance, now let's write a function called library. Let's import. This is how we import. Import is a keyword and so it's a module. So if we must import this modules now, so we can now make use of it. Let's say that we have an array. Of course, you should know what an array is. We have an array of, or we are developing a game, and that game we want to toss between, we want the computer to choose between head and tail. So we'll make an array of head and tail. Make an array of head and tail. So now let's make use of the function. There is a keyword called choice. There is a key function called choice. So let's say that our coin, let's assign a keyword called coin and random dot. Can I make use of the word random and dot choice? Choice. You open your brackets, then you can now call your array. Hope this makes sense. Hope this makes sense. So now when we call this now, what will this whenever this program runs, what will happen? It will shuffle, the computer will select any of these at random. So let's print our result by saying print. Of course, you'll be able to know how to print a variable. Sorry, I don't need a quotation mark to print a variable. So if I run this now, the computer have chosen between any of these. You are choosing tail. So let me comment on this and see what. We comment on it. Let's remove this and let's call it. So at every instance we call this, it chooses between this and this. So okay, you can guess the next one. Okay, let me guess the health. So it still fell on tail. You keep on doing it, you find out that a time will come when you choose any of them. So let's say that if I add any other one in this array, let me say and I can choose nose or any other thing. So the computer will choose between any of them. You are choosing head. If you are choosing head, if you run it again, choose another one. So what does this library help us to do? We don't need to write it. There is a several function that will aid the computer to run this, to perform this task I just did now. But the library have helped us solve it by we simply import it import the modules, then this is the function, particular function that does it. And it must take in a syntax called an array. So I can choose not to assign an array in I can choose not to assign this array in, I choose not to assign this array as a variable. If I run this code, it should produce the same result. So, and then that is it. I just hope you are seeing this. Let me zoom. You can see that it's producing a lot of different results. So that being said, let's go ahead. The next thing is this function now. If we don't want, when we say import random, we are importing every other functions written inside this module is called random. So if we choose to only import this, since we are using only this function, we can choose to import it. We use the keyword called from. So you simply tell the computer from random, please import uh, the function called choice. So we're gonna delete this now. So that means at this point we don't need this dot again. We simply call this function. And let's try and see what happens at this point. Can you see now that it's now working? So hope you just understand it. So we've been taught far. We've been able to understand the meaning of a library. We should be able to call a library, and you should be able to make use of it following the syntax. So you might be wondering, how do I memorize all these things now? Never used to worry. Python and virtually every standard library comes with what we call documentation. So for example, the documentation for this random documentation for random modules is this. When you go to Python official page, this is it. When you go to Python official page, you get it. So if you open this, let's open this in a browser and see what happens. You open this in a browser. Let me open it in a browser. Let me see. Okay, this is it. Let me quickly share this thing. Okay. Can you see now? Generate pseudo random numbers. So these are several functions. You can read up. There are several functions sitting inside it. So that is it. So most of your betting games develop using these functions. Random integer. Okay, let's play with this random integer and see what happens. Let's look at the documentation. The documentation says that this function now, this is the syntax. You put two integer from this place to this place. So what will it return? It returns a random integer n such that a is less than n and b is less than n, alias for this. So that means that any number we put in between this a or b, the computer will just choose a number between it. So let's play along with it now. This random, this. Let's go with this and see what happens. Let's go over to our code quickly. All right. So let's import. Remember, we imported this. Okay. Let's since we are under modules, let's just play along with it and see what. Remember, this is the syntax, right? This is the syntax. So let me assign this select now. Let me say guess no. Let's say choose it that guess norm. Of course, if you want to develop a number guessing game, this is a very good way to do it. So norm, they will now do remember the syntax. Let me comment this now. Remember the syntax is random. Syntax is random. Rand integer is a function. So we choose an integer. You can only accept an integer. If you run this, it will flag error. Why would it flag error? Because A is not an integer. Neither will B is an integer. So except we choose to leave it like this, and we can simply come to this place and say A is equal to 0. Then A is equals to 0. A equals to 0. 0. Then B should be equals to, let me say 10. So when we run this now, let's print it out. Let's print it out. We can say now that the computer guessed, let's put the number. Of course, you know how to print two. Remember, this is now a variable. So let's go now, or let's print it. See what happens. When you run this code now, the computer will end up guessing. Computer should be able to guess. Let's. Number successful. Why is it not open? Okay, sorry for the interruption. Now, when you do this now, let's see what happened at this point. So, if you run this code now. Sorry, let's take this. I had some error, so I have to troubleshoot it. Okay, let's go now. At every instance, we choose this. At every instance, we use we consider running this. This number will change. Or you can possibly, because the computer is just guessing a number between, computer gets 3. Number is guessing between the number between this and this. So that is it. And okay, so let's quickly check any other library. So likewise, other library, we have a lot of libraries. So you just quickly search whenever you want to have a challenge in Python, or quickly search you on the internet and find out. So for the modules of this course, let's try another one. For example, if I import statistics now as a modulus, I can choose to do this. Let's try this now. It gives me the average of these two numbers. So let's see what happens now. Let's go on the code and see how it goes. What happens to have this now? Let me replace with this and run it. Let's make it 100, for instance. Start from unknown to known to unknown. So the mean number between 100 and this is 100 plus 100 divided by 2 should give us 100. If we choose to increase this array, note, we can increase it to 1,000 numbers. it will calculate the array for us automatically. Note how what is the symbol of this? It must accept an array. If we do not put an array, it must flag an error. Let's see that. Let's see. Possibly, let's see what happens. It will flag an error, I guess. Let's see the error message of this. The error message says printing statistics. This is it. Typo error means takes in position. That means the argument you are taking is wrong. Are you getting it? So once you violate any of the rules that assigned it, of course, nothing for you. So that was why they normally provide a documentation. So as a programmer, once you know how to use documentation, you are good to go. Because nobody knows it all. So that being said, now let's quickly, okay, let's go to packages. A package is simply a third party libraries developed by a lot of users, then hosted in a common repository called PY. So this is the name. Forget about the name and then what does we do? This PYPI, all those big libraries have been stored there. So if we want to make use of it, we call it, we simply download it. Normally we make use of this package. This package manager calls PIP. So the various languages has its own package managers. For instance, your JavaScript, this package manager should be Node, and you make use of NPM. Your PHP make use of Composer and Artisan, depending on Composer, depending on the framework you are making use of. So now, all these things are in the internet. So if I want to make use of it, I will call it, first of all, I must install it. You must install it using these keywords, PIP, that's pipe, from the command line, then use install, then you now name the name of the package you want to make it. So this is a common package we used. So let's call this package from the command line, for instance, now. And then let me see what happens. This is how you do it. You go over to this place. Let me still go over here. There. This is my command line, terminal window. This is my command window. Let me install it. See what happens. So, run this upgrade guy, whatever. So this will take us time. So I've installed this now under this. Let me say, let me upgrade. I was asked to, hope you are seeing this now. I was asked to upgrade this. Just follow the instruction you are given. So I'm asked to do this now. Install this upgrade PIP. So it will quickly update all dependencies. So all these lines, all these things is simply what I'm using the CLI command to download the repository from the internet. Ideally, I could simply go to I could simply go and download it and do it manually, but this is the simpler way of doing this. So with time, you don't conversant with it. So once I've done this now, let's create a simple code. Let's create a simple code using that library and putting it code.say.py.py. So it will create a simple file called say.py. So at this point now, let's import a library. Let's import a library. Import. Remember how we make use of it. We can now make use of this library. Oh, remember the library I imported was cow. Cow say. Cow say is the name of the library. So let's just play along with it. Cow say is the name of the library. And let's just play along with this. Now, this cow say. Cow say. I'm not using exactly what they use here. So we don't just work, make it more complex. Cow say. You say cow say. I will download this. Let me copy this and edit the code. So I will copy this and edit this code because of our time. I will copy it and let me edit the code. Quickly edit the code and I'll copy it here. So cow say will not make use of this library system. So this cow say, what does it do? It accepts an integer. Let me say my name is anything you ask it to say, it will simply say it immediately. Let's see how it works now. Hello, how about you? Now the cat will automatically say, we will now use a text. Let's just play around with this. I have to comment on this. We don't know use of it. So I don't want the lesson to be lengthy. So that was why I have to bypass a lot of things. Let me make this. Let's run this code now. All right, this is the code now. Let's see what happened at this point. This is almost long enough. So now, let's interpret the code. I've imported this. All these things are not necessary. So I've imported this module called cow say, and cow say first, then dot. There is a function called cow, and it only accepts one string. Habakkuk. I did not get the spelling of Habakkuk. So this is Habakkuk. So now let me quickly run it. How do you run it? Now say Python. Remember, I'm running it from the from the terminal. Python dot say, you call your function, the name of the file, dot say.py. So very good. Let me zoom the line. Can you see now the cow have said hello Habakkuk, and that's it. This is just a function that was created for decades ago, just for learning purpose. So and that is it. So let's quickly summarize this lesson. It's becoming long. So we understand the concept of packages. That packages, unlike libraries, you must install it and you must use package manager, which is PIP, to install your package. You get it now, PIP, install it, then the name of the package. So if you need more about it, you can simply go to this, search this on Google, or go to python.org and ask for packages. You get a lot of packages, So then, what is an API? An API, also known as Application Program Interface. It allows you to connect to code of others. The common one is request API. For instance, now you could see a betting site. Then you'll be wondering, how does this betting site, do they watch football? No, what they do is they collect APIs from probably a company that streams live the football and update the result at real time. So you can simply on your own, it's either you pay for it, some of them are open source. You just simply pay for it, collect their API, integrate their data in your application, and you make use of it. So, and that is it. A quick summary of what we just done. We've treated the meaning of libraries, and we were able to know that libraries are simply usable code and usable functions that programmers make use of. Libraries normally come with Python by default. Then, if you must use of a package, it must be installed before you start calling it. If we call that cowsay without installing it, we find out that we will not be able, our program will not be able to be recognized. And that is it. Then you should be able to, at the end of this course, you should be able to import a modulus, use a function. Example now, let me say random is a modulus. So inside that random, we have a lot of functions such as choice, in rand, int, and so on, rand, int, and so on and so forth. Then each of them comes with its syntax. So it's now your duty as a programmer to look up for them and look up for these functions. We look up for the documentary of a particular modulus or library you want to make use of, and know how to make use of it so that you don't violate the syntax format of that library. So that being said, I guess we should call it a day at this point. Happy learning and God bless.